Blessings, everyone. It's Jules, and I am super excited about our guest today. We have just kind of reconnected after, I guess it's been probably maybe just, it hasn't been that long. It's probably been a year and a half or so. And
Yeah.
yeah, don't you think? I think so. So I have Peter Cater with me. Peter is a two-time Grammy Award winner for his creations on the piano. And I'm calling them creations because I feel like you can't even really call them music because it's so beyond that. If
Mm.
you have not checked out Peter's music, you definitely need to go and check it out. And I know he's in creation of some really amazing things. He's taking music to a whole nother level. And that's what we do here, right? We ascend beyond what's already been created. And Peter is doing this in so many magical ways. And we're going to talk about that. But the first thing I want to do before I turn it over to you, Peter, is I'm going to hold up the DMT code that Peter was selected randomly. So this is the 4, which is taking creation and bringing it into form. And it's also the alchemist. So it's the ability to take something that's already been created and upgrade it. So you could see it as water to wine. So this is the code that Peter has brought through for us today. And now I'm going to turn it over to you, Peter, to talk a little bit about what that sparked for you. I just feel like it's such a perfect code for you, and I'll let you kind of take over.
Okay. Well, good to see you, first of all. Um, yeah, it's interesting. I've been doing creative work for so long, my whole life. And it's been just a gradual process of refining and refining and refining, and it's not just refining myself in terms of the different levels of myself, my spirit, my body, my emotions, but it's also refining my response ability, my ability to respond in a split second, to catch those indications, those impulses, those creative sparks, like
Mhm.
right when they happen, and embrace them and say yes and go with them, and essentially surrender to the guidance of, I guess you could call it manifestation, but it's really about being in the moment. It's not even about manifestation, because manifestation implies there's a goal.
Mhm.
But it's not like that. It's just about being completely responsive in the moment. And I love that process, not only musically and creatively, but in my personal life, in my intimate life, in my daily flow, trying to really be present with what is, and move in that direction. One thing that I thought of when you mentioned this briefly, and I've been thinking about this recently because I've run into some people that apparently don't seem to know this, but there is this importance with the power of your word,
Mhm.
which I think people forget a little bit. It's like, I really believe that you have to empower your word by aligning it with your actions. You can't say, I'm going to do something and then not do it. You can't try and then, oh, well, I tried. You know what I mean? It's like, I have this friend, he's a musician, he's a super, super talented musician. And I've just observed recently that he doesn't really follow through with what he says, and that's so disempowering and so disconnecting from the flow of what is in the universe, because the universal flow is humongous, right? It's all powerful, it's all present, it's like the tide pool of a lifetime. You know what I mean? It's like just takes you. And if you align with that, there's no effort involved in manifestation.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? It's like the efforting comes from our own struggle with ourselves. But if we let go of that struggle and just say, yes, 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 we're going to do this. Yes, we did this. Yes. It begins to have a flow all of its own that we can't really take credit for, but we can certainly enjoy the ride. least that's how I believe it happens.
I love that. I call that being the creator and the creation at the same time, because you're in the creator intelligence and you're listening and doing, and then you're actually actively creating in that frequency. And when we step out of that and we start to observe is when everything gets distorted. And that's where that split moment of knowing that you're there and doing something with it, but even reversing that and knowing when you're not there and bringing yourself back.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So
was doing
some of the things that you're working on, because I know you have so when I just randomly, I don't even know how this happened. You popped into my head, and I've changed my email so many times. I wasn't even sure if I was going to be able to find you. And I did. I found the piece that you actually did to me was the email that I found. And it's such an amazing piece. And I reached out knowing we were going to have this. And I just happened to get you when you were really what you shared with me blew my mind. I just think it's such an innovative way to connect music to the next level. So I want to talk a little bit about what you're working on.
okay. So the main thing, I'm working on several projects. The main thing that I'm trying to get to uh, more of my energy towards is this series of recordings in support of breathwork. Breathwork for me has become sort of the central discipline of my daily life. You know, like every day I want to do breathwork because it's powerful, it's transformative, it's healing, it's grounding, it's all these things, and it's a discovery. It's like it's always a discovery, whether it's the shorter Wim Hof / Tumo styles, which are rooted in ancient Tibetan breathing techniques from the Himalayas, or whether it's holotropic, you know, which is the longer sessions, more aggressive breathing. It takes me on journeys that I could never imagine myself, you know, but it's through me. It's through, you know, through me. And there's a divine guidance that happens with the breath. Like the breath is the spark of life. It's a spark of spirit, right? So like the Latin word spiritus translated means to breathe, breath. Like spiritus, which is spirit, obviously, is breath. Breath is spirit, and I love that. And so I'm doing these. Most of the people I've done a lot of breath work over the years, and I've dropped in a lot of breathwork classes. And most people, what they do is they just put on nice music that they think supports the breathwork, and it is nice. It is good. It's enjoyable, but it's not contoured towards the different parts of the journey. You know, the breathing, the holding, the releasing, and so I'm writing this music that really is contoured towards the whole landscape of the breath experience, and it really enhances the journey. And I'm really excited about it. It's like a passion project, you know what I mean? Because it's like it's so close to home that I'm really doing it for myself because I have to. But I'm excited to release it to the world later this year. Um, and then with my retreats, I think we talked about that earlier. That I host these week-long retreats 3, 4, or 5 times a year, and those are also centered around breath work and music, authentic relating, intimacy building, trust building. And the breath work is just a big part of that just accelerates the whole process of getting to know yourself, getting to release those old traumatic wounds, getting to invite more spirit and light into your experience. You know, it's really, I can't say enough about how easy and accessible it is and how profound it is at the same time.
So when is your next retreat that you have coming up? I just feel like this is a good time to just in.
I've got 3 in Montana in 2024. It's, I think, June 17th through the 23rd, and then July 17th through the 23rd, and then sometime in mid-October. It's on my website. It's in
Okay.
outside of Whitefish, Montana, at this ranch called the Dancing Spirit Ranch, which is like 350 acres of just amazing land and ponds and lakes and rivers. It's just gorgeous.
I've heard a lot about your retreats, and everybody always comes back just completely transformed, and just they can't say enough about it, right? And I think that that says a lot about it. I'm when you said October, I was thinking, okay, the leaves changing, what a magical time to have a retreat as well. I want to go back in. Oh, but really quick, let's have just go ahead and shout out your website. We will have it in the show notes, but just so if people want to look it up right now while we're talking, they can.
It's peterkater.com. So peterkater.com.
Easy enough. So definitely check
Easy enough.
that. All right, Peter. So I want to go back into the breath because I have been sitting in the breath as well in a different way, but I okay, so the breath is we breathe in and we breathe out. So it's the first thing we do when we come into life, and then it's the last, well, not maybe not the last, but close to the last. It goes when we die, right?
Yeah.
And it's connected. I think it's interesting that they're connecting that to spirit. I just really found that fascinating. So, as I've been doing my work and I'm kind of ascending the body, the breath is the one place that, and I'm just curious. This is more just curious. I just to see where you go with this. So, I find when I go to really, really high frequencies by doing coding or the work that I do, I stop breathing. And it's the most sacred space that I can go to is the no breath. And as I sit in it, I also keep getting visualizations or downloads connecting to the intelligence, however you want to see it, is that when we turn on the other 90% of our human potential and we really start to become quantum, that the breath will go away. So I'm just curious. I want to just open that up and see where it goes.
Yeah, I have the same experience actually. It's interesting. When I'm in my deeper meditations, I find that I breathe less and less and almost to the point of not breathing. One of my favorite parts about all the different kinds of breath work, and Wim Hof does this, and again, the original form of the Wim Hof, which is the Tumo style, they have the breath holds on an exhale, which I find to be completely fascinating and stimulating because we're so geared towards like, all right, now take a deep breath and hold your breath. You know what I mean? Like go under the water and take a deep breath and hold your breath. Or, it's always about, oh, hold your breath, like hold on to it, hold on to whatever it is in your life, hold on to it. You know what I mean? And when I do the breath holds on the exhale, so I'll do a series of inhales, like 30 or 40, quick in and out circular breathing, full body, full chest, lung breathing, and then take that last exhale and then hold on the emptiness of no breathing for 30, 60, 90 seconds, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. Sometimes I can do it for 3 minutes. It is trippy. It is like that's when all this stuff just floods in, whatever it is. It's even hard to put to words. It's like surfing,
Mhm.
you know what I mean, on space. I don't know. It's my favorite experience, actually.
I'd be curious if a small amounts of DMT are released from your pineal gland when you're doing that. I'm feeling that that's true, even if it's just through frequency. And it kind of is opening up that holding consciousness on the other side is what I would say, or in that higher state.
I probably, and honestly, it makes me think about like, death and
Mhm.
having that last exhale. It has really changed my relationship or anticipation of what that might be like. You know what I mean? Because I'll be honest, and throughout my life, I've, been intimidated by my mortality and the idea of this body and this personality dying or whatever, But through doing the breath work and through the experience of what it's like to not breathe and go through these extensive breath holds on an exhale, it's really changed how I anticipate my eventual last breath of this body will be and where it'll take me. It becomes more exciting and more curious rather than like, ooh, more, you know what I mean? Because I don't know, it's powerful. Again, words fail me at this point,
I
because
know that's
it's
what
you
I was
have to
gonna
experience
ask.
it.
I was gonna ask, how has it changed? But it sounds like you're still in this curious space. And the reason I asked that, I don't know why this is so bizarre, this is coming through, but so one of my best friends passed away, and I was by his side as he was dying, and he kept saying, I'm not afraid to die, because he did DMT, like the actual psychedelic. And he was like, I know where I'm going. And that's the sense that I was feeling I'm getting chills like right now too, as you were talking about your breath work. It's kind of like you're connecting to what's next.
Yeah, it's almost like it's weird. It's almost like a bridge, but it's a formless, empty kind of. I don't know. It's very interesting. You have to experience it.
Yeah, it
I'm,
feels.
I'm not dying, but just extended breath holds.
Wait, nobody go out and die, but I do invite everyone to I'm gonna play in it a little bit. And if anything, for me, I always like to try things and trace the frequency of the information that's behind it, because obviously it's a thing for a reason, right? It's bringing us somewhere consciously or through the experience itself. And I love to approach things in that way, and it sounds like you're doing the same with your curiosity, is what information is held here. Because for me, that's the most important thing, is that when we're actively participating in meditation or breath work or a psychedelic, whatever it is that we're choosing, that we're doing it from a place that we are actively participating consciously in the information that's held in the action itself. And when we're doing that, we're connecting to an intelligence outside of our programming instead of having the experience through our programming. I'm just going to open that up to you. To what are your thoughts on that?
I think what you're saying is true. I think it's important to get past what we perceive as our intelligence through our programming. Um, when I'm in creative process working on a song or a project, I just have these random ideas of like, oh, well, why don't do this, do that, change this, don't use this, try this. It's just like it's a constant flow of information that seems to be coming in from an intelligence that is not mine. And I've trained myself to listen to it. And once when I start feeling like I'm not sure or I start second guessing myself, I just stop, take a break, reset, come back when I'm clear again. You know.
I love that. I was actually just having a conversation with Judy Anderson. You know Judy Anderson. If you don't know her, you should go check her out. Jazz Up Your Life with Judy. And she was, I don't know how we got on the subject of some of the stuff that I'm in creation of, and I said something like, it blows my mind. I don't know whose brain I'm tapping into. It's just because it's definitely not me. And that's what I was hearing when you say that too. There's definitely another intelligence that is there for anybody that's willing to tap into it. And I love that you're tapping into it in this really different way, because I've never heard it. I mean, maybe there's other people out there doing it, but I haven't heard of anybody doing what you're doing. And of course, nobody else could do it in the way that you're doing it. And it's that I feel is probably the most important part, is that when we do tap into that intelligence outside of our programming, that we listen, but even more importantly, that we do, that we do something with it. And that's kind of bringing me back to full circle to where you started this conversation of doing what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, responsibility. I love that responsibility. It's like your ability to respond
Yeah.
in a genuine and authentic way to the information that you're receiving, um, and building the power of your word. I think it's just super important. Start simple. Like people, like they set these goals for themselves that are just like fantastic or whatever, and then they trip up and whatever. I mean, just set reasonable goals and do what you say you're going to do. And once you've got that down, then do more and set other goals. And if you say you're going to start a project about blah blah blah, then do it. You finish it, and that just creates this dynamism and support from the universe that you need, that one needs, to manifest, to bring things into form that were just in the subtle realms.
I was feeling into when you were saying that. I always like to kind of tune in to the people that are listening. And one thought that I came across was, well, first, let me back up. The first thing that I heard in that is this is one of the spaces where I feel like, especially in this year, that is really going to shift consciously for people is that they realize they can't just sit back and consume all the time. Oh, I'm going to consume this because I'll listen to this and I'll listen to this. They're just consuming on all of how to do it, but then they're not actually going and doing it. And I feel like that's a big shift in consciousness that's happening in the collective, is that people are actually doing it now instead of just listening and getting all hyped up and getting excited and then just wondering why nothing ever happens. And that's what I was hearing as you were talking. But I heard somebody say, what keeps you motivated, or what gets you from on, let's say, a day that you should do something, but you're just not feeling inspired to do it anyways? Because I do feel like there's some spiritual discipline, and I'm not saying force your way through. If the creativity isn't there, you're not doing it. But there is a level of discipline to get yourself past that. Are you hearing the question? I don't know if I'm quite doing it in the right way, but I feel like I'm close.
I think so. I mean, I think those are early stages, honestly, of just building the discipline to do things, to dive in. I mean, anymore, since I've already done quite a bit, really in the last 40 years or so, I have to admit, it's a pretty impressive body of work. And even objectively looking at it, I go like, shit, I can't even believe I did all that. These days, I'm more sensitive to being compassionate and open to my own flow.
Mm.
Like right now, for example, I've been circling around a project. I kind of like jumped out of my work for the holidays. You know what I mean? Because I was distracted by personal stuff or whatever. And I haven't jumped back in yet. And part of me is like, really, dude, you should be there working. You haven't been working the last week, 2 weeks. But I know from experience that when I'm ready and when I organically have that inner urge from inside that says, yes, go to the keyboard, go to the computer, that I will be 10 times more efficient and clear than I would be if I pushed myself into it yesterday when I didn't really feel like I wanted to yet. But that's because I've already got all this momentum going from years of like actually completing projects and doing things. So my perspective is a little different. But certainly, early on, you have to build a sense of discipline for sure. And I don't know. Honestly, I don't know why some people have that and some people don't. I don't really get it.
I think for a lot of people, I mean, even people that don't naturally have it, I feel like it's a discipline. It is something that you have to practice, right? Just like a muscle, it's the more you do it, just like now
Yeah,
it's just a way of life, right? I want to go
yeah.
back to what you said though, because as you were saying it, there was something that was really valuable in not forcing yourself to do it when you weren't ready. But even as you were saying that, I could tell that there was a frequency that was still in creation, even though you weren't at the piano. So
Oh
just
yeah,
the ability to think about it and know that it's
yeah,
there is creating an energy that's coming in for you.
absolutely, absolutely. That's really important actually. Because I also noticed that like I'll take breaks from playing the piano. I mean, a lot of my work is piano based and some of it's not, right? But the piano is kind of like a place that I go to where I really kind of work out a lot of my emotions and musical ideas and stuff. But I have noticed very much for a long time now that even if I take a break from playing the piano for a couple of weeks, sometimes maybe even as long as a couple of months, when I eventually get back to the piano, my music has grown because it's always there. The relationship is always there. And I take whatever I've learned in my life, in my personal life, in my experience, in my meditation, and my practices back to the piano. And I can tell that there's a shift, there's a subtle shift in what I'm going for, what sounds good to me, what movements feel right, you know, all those things. But I think that comes from, again, like a lifetime of discipline, you know, like with one focus, you know. I don't know. I can only speak for myself. I don't, you know, I've never claimed to be a good teacher. I'm a good student.
I don't know about that. I don't know if I agree with that. I feel like you have wisdom, and when you speak, whether or not you know it or not, your message is a teaching, and a lot of times just sharing experience is the best teacher.
I agree. I agree. And that's going back to my retreats. That's what my retreats are about. They're really just about being in the moment, sharing experiences. And the intention is not to be transformed or to heal even. I mean, I don't even hold those concepts in my mind. I don't even, you know, it's like I don't have a goal. The goal is always to surrender to what is in the
Mm.
moment and trusting that that's exactly what needs to happen. Just the embodiment and the experience of what is right now. So
And you're really good
yeah.
at it. There's something that Peter does if you ever get to have the honor of being in his presence when he's on the piano. He allows you to lay underneath his grand piano, and he will listen or attune, however, whatever. I'm not sure. I call him intuitive powers. So he taps into the frequency of the people that are laying person or people that are laying under the piano. And he just goes with whatever wherever it takes him. And it's one of the most fascinating experiences to have because you're feeling the vibration of from the keys that are above you. I don't know, maybe I'm not saying that right, or the little strings. And it's so in alignment with what your body is holding already. And it just kind of almost brings in this, I'm going to say, non-sensory experience because your body just moves into the music to almost like if you're in a float tank. It's like you know you're floating and you know the water's there, but you can't tell the difference between your body and the music. It's such an amazing experience. So shout out to get to one of his retreats just to experience that. Well, Peter, do you have anything that we haven't talked about or just something that you feel like it's important to share?
Mm, I think we covered it, honestly. Those points that we talked about are, I think, are very important. And also, I mean, maybe to add to this concept of responsibility, creative ideas. They don't, they're not like, they're not always there. You know what I mean? If you don't respond to a creative idea when you get it, it's gone tomorrow. You know, you might still remember it, but it won't have the same substance and form and juiciness that when you first get it. And you have to jump on those things. You have to respond immediately. You have to like go, oh, you have to catch it. You have to catch it and run with it, you know? I don't know. It's because everything's always moving and shifting. Like we're all like, you know,
Yeah.
everything's changing like every second. So yeah, I think it's about it for me.
I want to just say that you're so blessed that you have a creative outlet, that you can be so connected to those creative hits consistently. And I'm just feeling into a couple people that maybe they don't have that exact thing. So I just feel like there's one more thing I'd like to tap into before I let you go, because I know that you get these creative hits in other places of your life that aren't just your music. So I want to have you, if you have an example or like what that would look like in quote unquote real life, not just in the creation of your music.
To be honest, in relationship to my music, it's very clear. It's very clear to me. When I'm working on something, it's just so clear. Like I'm on the right path, I'm not. You know, it's like there's no gray area. It's like very clear. It's more subtle in my personal life. It's harder because I don't know. It seems like it is. But I do get those moments of information, those split seconds of like guidance, you know, like that small voice that says something about if I'm about to go out and, you know, should I bring this or might I run into this person? These little thoughts of that I find that when I pay attention to them and listen to them, even though they're just very soft and subtle, that is a good thing to do. Was the right thing to do. I can't think of any particular like huge demonstration of that at the moment, but I've always said that if I could live my life with the clarity that I have in my creative work, it would be transformative. And my life is transformative. I'm not saying it's not, but
Yeah.
it's very clear when I'm in creative process. Maybe it's because of all those years that I just keep coming back to that same place, you know, like the keyboard, that moment of sitting down and just being like, oh, here I am in front of these same 88 keys, you know, like it's a serious discipline.
I'm going to just invite everyone that's listening to bring that discipline into every aspect of your life. What you're talking about is what I call our our superpower, right? It's the ability to listen and act and create a life around an intelligence outside of our normal thoughts. Programming is what I call it. And when we practice that, and I think it's so amazing what you've created from that space. And I'm going to even just say, you got this. It's just like that one little step of bringing that soft, subtle voice and making it louder. We're just gonna challenge everybody that's listening to this to bring that discipline and responsibility into every aspect of your life, that life becomes the creative practice.
I
Chills.
like it. I like it.
Chills. Oh, Peter, this has been so, so fun. So definitely check out Peter's retreats. I know he's going to have some music coming up, but a big part of his retreats are going to be around the breath and creative flow and doing everything that this is an amazing conversation. And so just with this conversation, you can only imagine what it would be like to spend a whole week in this energy.
It's beautiful.
Peter.com. We'll put the link below. Thank you, Peter, so
Thank
much.
you, Jules. It's always a pleasure. Always great to see you,
You
talk
too.
with you.
Yes. Always transformational. And we hope everybody that's listening is feeling that transformation, even though that's not what we got on here with the purpose of doing. I think that's transformation is always in reflection and I appreciate this reflection that you've created. Thank you, everyone.
Mm.